We're taking a bale of hemp straw and we're turning it into clean ingredients that are packaged and ready for retail and other manufacturers to use in their process. And we all know there's tens of thousands of uses here. And once this commodity is on the market and the specifications are consistent, the volumes are consistent, American ingenuity is going to take off, and it's exciting to see where all hemp is going to end up in 10 years from now.
That's Scott Evans from Panda Biotech. This is the Lancaster Farming Industrial Hemp Podcast. My name is Eric Herlock. And guess what? Today is another good news episode. That's right. It's good news I'm sharing with you today in the hemp industry. What's the good news? Well, the good news is that I'm talking to Scott Evans from Panda Biotech. Why is that good news? Well, Panda Biotech is just about to open a state-of-the-art processing facility in Wichita Falls, Texas, the second largest in the world, according to today's guest. So this is great news because that's exactly what we need, more processing. So we're going to hear all about Panda on today's show, so buckle up. All right, so before we get into it, I've got some business to take care of. This episode is made possible with generous support from IND Hemp in Fort Benton, Montana, where they believe in the goodness of hemp. IND Hemp is a family-owned, mission-driven, and environmentally focused industrial hemp food and fiber company providing new opportunities for farmers and rural communities in Montana and across the American West. Yeah, indhemp.com. Also, we give a big shout out to the folks at Impactful Ventures. They are a company that invests in and supports startups and initiatives making an impact in the fight against climate change. We also have a guest sponsor this week, so I'm going to share this little bit of audio from our guest sponsor, Forever Green. They are the exclusive distributors of the KP4 hemp harvester.
The KP4 hemp cutter. Introducing a revolution in hemp harvesting, setting a new standard for harvesting quality, speed, and efficiency. The KP4 prepares hemp for ideal retting and easy on-field tedding, raking, and baling. Easy to maintain and designed to withstand the punishments of hemp harvesting. The KP4 hemp cutter. Available only at hempcutter.com.
Okay, welcome back. So last week I talked a little bit about this idea I've stumbled upon called determinate optimism. I'm still thinking about it, I'm still learning about it, but I figured out a little more about what I meant last week when I said that I figured out why I make this podcast, why I am moved, called even to cover the hemp industry. And so I came up with this little sort of mission statement. Maybe it's more of a thesis, but here it goes. The people whose stories I am telling through the Industrial Hemp Podcast, these are the people that are building the future that I am determinately optimistic about. One more time. The people whose stories I am telling through the Industrial Hemp Podcast, these are the people who are building the future that I am determinately optimistic about. Yes, it's this idea of using agriculture to meet more of our needs, all of our needs, the plastics, the papers, the textiles, you name it. Let's make everything from plants. So that's it. That's why I'm excited to tell the stories of hemp, because the people out there building this industry are building the future that I want to see. All right, so before we get into my interview with Scott Evans, I have a little more to say. So I've been thinking about the cannabis plant and how it's kind of an anomaly in its overall usefulness, right? Plants have always provided for humans, right? Before and after the advent of agriculture. There are so many useful plants and we are grateful for them. And most plants are good at, one thing, right? Like maybe two things. Take broccoli, for example. It's really good at being food. Who doesn't love broccoli? And corn. Let's look at corn. Corn is a special case because it's good at a bunch of different things, right? Not just food, but as an ingredient in other foods and as a fuel. You can do a lot with corn. But the cannabis plant which, industrial hemp is the cannabis plant, it can do so much more. This plant is special. It's like if you ask it for something in the right way and are patient enough to put in the work, the plant will provide what you're asking it for and then some. Or so it seems from my reporting here on the Industrial Hemp Podcast. I love the story of industrial hemp. It's like after 80 years of vilification and mycelial growth, cannabis comes riding in on her magic horse to save the day, bringing something for everyone. From micro individual self-health to the economic health of a community, to the environmental health of our interconnected ecosystems. Here's this plant gently singing these songs of freedom. It's all we've ever had. And who doesn't love a redemption story, vilified in the past and showing up right when we need it most? So anyway, that is why I do what I do, and I'm happy to do it, and I'm grateful to do it. So anyway, let's go down to Wichita Falls and talk to Scott Evans from Panda Biotech. Scott Evans, Executive Vice President at Panda Biotech in Wichita Falls, Texas. Welcome to the Lancaster Farming Industrial Hemp Podcast. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here and talk about industrial hemp with you.
Good. Yeah, I've been hearing about Panda Biotech for years and years now, so it's exciting for me to get the chance to talk to you, and I know there's a lot of exciting things happening down there in Texas. But let's first start with the high-level description. What is Panda Biotech?
Yeah, Panda Biotech is a company based out of Dallas. Our first project here is in Wichita Falls, and we are essentially an industrial hemp decortication center. So our goal is to bring in hemp straw and deliver clean ingredients for people to use in other manufacturing processes, the majority or the primary ones being bass fiber and hurd.
Okay. So, like I said, we've been hearing about Panda Biotech for a while. I know back in 2021, I was putting together a national hemp tour. I'm like, I'm going to Texas. I want to go to Wichita Falls, and I don't think you all were quite ready for me yet. But tell me a little bit about that journey since then. When did the company start, and what have you been doing to get to this point now where you're, I think, just about to commission the facility, right?
Yeah, we've been looking at the industry seriously since about 2019 and knew after that farm bill passed that there was a lot of opportunity in this space. And we saw a gap in the supply chain where we knew that the farmers wanted to grow industrial hemp for fiber. And we knew there was manufacturers and customers out there that wanted, clean ingredients that are hemp derived for their manufacturing process. But there was really not a decortication center to complete the supply chain there. So we decided to step in and fill that void. And we wanted to do it at commercial scale with really state-of-the-art top tier equipment, because the name of the game is consistency and hitting a consistent specification. So these other manufacturers that are using fiber or hurd can really rely on that source. And it's also volume, for these guys to take the industry seriously, we needed to be able to deliver consistent product streams at consistent volumes. So that's when we really decided to step in, take the initiative. And our chairman and CEO, Bob Carter, comes from the power plant industry. He developed about 22 large-scale power plants across the world. So we had the expertise and the team to really pull this off at commercial scale.
Okay. There's a lot there I want to get into. You mentioned that like the specs that you're hitting, like the consistency in the specs. Are you working with manufacturers now? Like, how do you know what specs you need to be working towards?
I think the whole industry is figuring out that question right now. So we've done a lot of trials, both on the agricultural side of things, because we are at a more southern latitude than a lot of other hemp producers. So a lot of the work we did early on was bringing genetics in from all over the world and saying, hey, what performs in our soil types at our latitude in these climate zones? And we, identified a lot of varieties that didn't work, and we identified some varieties that performed well. So that was a big part of the R&D that we did early on, and now we've really leaned into one genetic and are relying heavily on that to maintain consistent product on the back end, and also ensure the producers that this is going to come up, they're going to get successful stands, and it's going to grow in their region. So that was one phase of it. And then the other phase was doing a lot of trials at our equipment vendor's location, and then sending small samples to various manufacturers and having them run their process, get feedback from them, say, hey, we need longer fiber, we need shorter fiber, we need less herd, less dust, etc. So we did a lot of trials early on, and that led us to select our equipment vendors as well as the genetics we're going to use here.
Okay, so you've been doing your homework, you've been just taking your time and sort of getting it right. I'm going to come back and ask you about working with the farmers and the genetics in a bit. But first, let's talk more about the company. Talk about leadership, talk about the ownership of the company. Who owns the company?
Panda Biotech owns the company, and then we have a equity partner, which is the Southern Ute Indian tribe out of Ignacio, Colorado. And, they have an interest in Panda Biotech. So that's those are the owners of Panda Biotech, and the facility here in Wichita Falls is one that we own and operate, but a separate entity than Panda Biotech.
Okay. Is there like an overall mission of the company, or can you talk about the values of the company?
We want to give the farmers a chance to incorporate another crop here. They grow a lot of cotton, and we have issues with water supply. So we're looking for them to have another crop they can put into the rotation that's going to be profitable, that's going to use less water, and it's also going to regenerate the health of their soil, because there's a lot of farming practices that have been going on out here, and some of the soil is a bit depleted, and we want to give them an option to put a crop in the rotation that helps revitalize that soil and also diversifies their revenue stream. Yeah. And then, as I'd mentioned, on the back end, we're looking to be a large-scale provider of fiber and herd primarily. We have a couple other co-products, but we want consistency and we want high volume, so these top-tier manufacturers can really look at hemp as an ingredient seriously when they go to work this in their various product lines. Now, we're heavily focused on the textile market, so we think there is a lot of demand there, and this is a great natural fiber that we can blend with other fibers, add durability and other attributes to the denim or twill, khaki, whatever it's going into. So our focus is delivering a clean, mechanically processed fiber where we do not go through a chemical degumming process, and that really helps keep the sustainability story that's driving hemp intact.
Right. So I've been covering hemp in the U.S. for a few years, and I hear some sort of naysayers like, oh, domestic textiles is never going to be a thing because we can't compete with, some of the Chinese textiles or things like that. But I see a lot of like smart people trying to figure this out, in North Carolina and Texas. And so Talk to me a bit about sort of reshoring the American textile industry.
Yeah, well, as I mentioned, our focus with this mechanically cottonized fiber is primarily denim. It has its limits. If you want to go to finer count yarns, you will need to go through a degumming process. But for those lower count coarse yarns, this mechanically cottonized fiber we're producing has made, several different lots of great looking and great feeling denim. And a lot of denim production is done here in the Americas. It's not the USA, but Mexico, the Central American region, Brazil, and we're very close to that. So while we're not claiming, hey, all this is going to be done domestically from fiber to a finished garment, constricting that supply chain and keeping it in the Americas is a goal of ours, just to help, reshore that. As people are being more aware of that, we're having supply chain issues, we're having, labor concerns coming out of the Far East, and we really think we're poised to introduce a new fiber into the market that can be, spun and turned into finished garments. If it's not here in the Americas, it could be in Mexico or Nicaragua or Panama, something right there across the border from us that's really close to where we are and where we produce a lot of cotton as well. And hemp and cotton are great companion fibers and make great denim.
Okay. So it's the Panda High Plains Hemp Gin. Is that right? Do I have the name right?
Yes, that's the current name of our facility here in Wichita Falls.
All right. Can you describe sort of the equipment you're running there? Like what's the system that you have in place?
Yeah, so we have a rather large system that's comprised from a few different European vendors who are well established and have been processing hemp and flax for decades. So we've gone with proven equipment, and we traveled the world, looked at everything that people were producing, got fiber off of those lines, then went to our trials, and we selected the equipment that we thought got the best results, because what we deliver on fiber could be delivered different than what we're after for the herd process. So we put together a few top tier vendors to create this line that we strongly believe will make the manufacturers happy with giving them the specs they need and the volumes they need. Okay. And it's got a throughput of 10 metric tons per hour. So it is a large line, to my knowledge, the second biggest in the world, next to one in France. So we can run very, very high capacity. And, Texas planted, I think, 8.5 million acres of cotton last year. We need about 25,000 acres to run this facility around the clock once we ramp up and are at full scale. So while it sounds like a lot, when you take a step back and look at other, commercial crops, it's really a drop in the bucket here.
Yeah, 25,000 acres. Yeah, I would love to see that. But yeah, like you said, like compared to like corn or soy, it's such a tiny amount. But
yeah, and it's going to take some time, to educate and to optimize that. Look, they've had hundreds of years. Hemp is not a new crop by any means. We all know that. This country was built on that. It got put on the shelf, and now we're revitalizing that industry. But we've got great farmers. We've got a lot of land, and we've got good infrastructure in this area to pull off those larger volumes than some of the other people are talking about.
Right. Getting back to the equipment, there is you're running La Roche stuff, or can you mention some sort of the other?
We don't really advertise the vendors' names that we're using right now, but it is 90% of it is coming out of Europe, and then there's a couple components that are coming out of the Americas here.
Okay,
but it is a combination of about 3 key vendors there, not just one specific company.
All right, so you need 25,000 acres to run at full capacity. Do you think that's all going to come out of Texas, or are you working with farmers throughout the U.S.?
We are 6 miles from the Oklahoma border here in Wichita Falls. So we target Texas farmers. We like them, but we are casting a broader net here in the first year, especially. So we tap into Oklahoma, Texas, southern Kansas, Missouri. We're in a great location here, and we don't want to put all our eggs in one basket. So we try to diversify the agriculture and spread it from south to north, so we can bring the straw in at different times, as well as avoid specific weather events in one region. So the goal moving forward, obviously, constrict that supply chain. Transportation is a killer as you go farther away when we're shipping in the bales of straw. But here in the early years, we cast a bit of a broader net, with the main focus being Texas and Oklahoma.
Okay. You mentioned earlier about, some varieties just didn't work at your latitudes, but then you found some genetics that work. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, high level, the Asian varieties and the Australian varieties perform very well here in our region. I think they're working on stuff, but we haven't seen the performance from the European varieties like other people have seen in more northern latitudes in the country. So
Sure.
those are the two that we focus on now. And there's a lot of people doing a lot of good work in genetics and breeding. So we fully anticipate, more varieties to be coming online that are specific to our region and fiber production. We are a industrial hemp producer. We like a 90-day growing cycle, and then we cut the plant, we red it, bale it, and bring it to our facility. So we are not after grain or,
The
cannabinoids
Yeah.
in any sense.
All right. 90 days. All right. So how tall do you prefer the hemp? I know some people are like, it grew 25 feet, but that's sometimes more than your facility can handle, right?
Yeah, we target a dense planting rate, because we like thinner stalks with no lateral branching, and somewhere in that 8 to 10 foot high range is ideal, but it also depends on when we get it in the ground and how much rainfall we have.
Yeah.
We target primarily dry land hemp instead of irrigated acreage, because this all comes back to, the sustainability, carbon reduction. That's what's driving this industry. And every chance we get, we try to maintain that and keep it intact. And this facility will utilize 100% renewable energy when we go into production. There's a lot of wind and solar out here in this part of Texas, so that's just one of those extra steps we're taking to keep the sustainability aspect intact.
Okay. Can you talk about like how you structure the deals with farmers? Like you're contracting them, or what does that look like?
Yeah, this year we rolled out what we call a pay to grow program. So we source the seed, we provide the seed to the farmer, and then we give them guaranteed payments upon planting, guaranteed payments upon harvest, and then a final payment based on the weight of the biomass once we receive that. And I would encourage, anybody that's interested to go to our website at www.pandabiotech.com, click on the grower inquiries tab. They can put some information in there, and then a member of our agricultural team will reach out to them and really dive into the specific details of that pay to grow program. But crop insurance is a big issue here, and we've taken another step to act as the insurance provider with this staged approach where there's really no out-of-pocket risk for the farmer. And we think that's important when they start experimenting with a new crop, because their margins are tight, and we don't want them to get into a bind or lose any money or have any hardship. So Panda has taken the initiative, along with building the processing center, to de-risk the agriculture for the farmer.
De-risk. That's the key word right there. Yeah. I'm not familiar with, like the different sort of testing requirements in the different states, but What's it like in Texas and Oklahoma for these growers? Do they need to get their crops tested for cannabinoid content, 90 days before harvest or whatever that is?
Yeah, it varies slightly between the states, but with our short growing cycle, we can call in the test at, 60 or 70 days in. They come and test, and then if they're compliant, we would harvest that crop. And we all know there's a lot of work going out there to delineate industrial hemp from cannabinoid production, and that will be helpful for the industry.
Mm-hmm.
But we know that stuff in DC takes time. So with the genetics we've selected and our cultivation practices, testing above those legal limits has not been a big issue for us.
Okay. At 90 days, is it in flower stage at all yet?
No, it depends on when you plant it and the variety, but with this genetic, that is really the pre-flower stage or the very beginning of
Right.
the flower formation.
Okay.
And that's when we like to cut it down because going into textiles, we have a little bit of a finer fiber with less lignin in there. And when we're not doing chemical degumming, that translates to a more spinnable fiber.
Okay. How are you finding new growers? Do you do educational events or, some kind of farmer outreach?
Yeah, we go to a lot of the local farm and ranch shows in the region. We have our team out there. We've got a booth, and we educate these farmers about the opportunity and then get people to reach out that way. And we've also been doing a lot of trials over the past few years and have developed a vast network of farmers who are very interested in this. And now with the facility coming online and us taking in commercial quantities, we're moving those relationships and some of those trial growers to larger scale contracts.
Okay. So it is or was a farm bill year? I forget. It's so confusing with our government right now. It's like it was going to be
I'm not gonna pretend I know much about policy or what's going on DC, but I think with the presidential election and things like that, it might be post-election where there's something that comes through, and there's other people. We're pushing for a visual inspection. Other people are pushing for a higher THC limit, and really either one of those would solve any issues we may have with crops being not compliant. So we're happy for any positive momentum there.
Okay.
I would really like to see a delineation of cannabinoid production from fiber and grain, and I think we will get there. It's just a matter of the bandwidth of the government and the resources being put towards this and the education. So I'm fully confident that will happen. When that happens, I wouldn't dare to say that because I've got no clue, but I'm hoping sooner than later.
Yeah, I agree with you. It just needs to be split.
It seems simple on paper, and that's why I say I'm not going to pretend I know anything about policy or government or how all that gets pushed through. But we are, trying to work with some lobbyists and people in DC who know that stuff, and they're pushing for it. It's just how important is that bill on the laundry list of other things, and when are they going to get to it? And once they get to it, will they agree on what that language should be? But I think everybody in the industry agrees on it, and we just need DC to come together and help our farmers and treat it like any of these other commodity crops that they're used to, because that's what it is. This is industrial hemp. We bring in bales of straw that look just like silage and are a completely different animal. When that farm bill got introduced, the cannabinoid market took off and people went full-fledged into that. But now over the past 2 years, I've been really happy with the attention to the industrial side of things and all the processors that are starting to pop up and the work that's going on in the agriculture and policy.
Yeah. So you mentioned the cannabinoid stuff took off, and that in my mind has created like a second stigma around the cannabis plant. There's the marijuana stigma, there's the CBD stigma. How does that stuff affect what you're doing and your, ability to reach people, or do those stigmas not even matter at this point?
No, they're out there. Especially in this region. Texas didn't have a pilot program in place. Oklahoma did, but it's all about education, and that's what we do. You come to the facility if we have a farm, and they see the equipment, they see the feedstock we're using, and it automatically clicks. But there is a lack of education out there on what is industrial hemp and how is that different from, cannabinoid production versus grain production versus marijuana production. So there's a lack of education out there. There is stigma out there. But once people see what we're doing, see the products we're creating, it's a no-brainer. And that's why we've, labeled ourselves a hemp gin, because we're right on the edge of cotton country here, and people understand, what cotton is in the field versus what cotton is after you take it through the gin. You get out the seed, you get the fiber, and that's what we're doing here. We're taking a bale of hemp straw and we're turning it into clean ingredients that are packaged and ready for retail and other manufacturers to use in their process. And we all know there's tens of thousands of uses here. And once this commodity is on the market and the specifications are consistent, the volumes are consistent, American ingenuity is going to take off, and it's exciting to see where all hemp is going to end up in 10 years from now.
Yeah. Yeah. I love when people say that. It's like, yes, you see the vision. Yeah. I love it.
Yeah. And it's, I can't say it. I've been, doing it for 5 years plus or minus, and seeing how the market has really pivoted over the past 2 years gives me a lot of confidence that, we're going to get there, and we're going to get there soon. And the floodgates are going to open for this wonderful crop and all the potential uses for it.
Yeah. I want to get into like your own personal journey into hemp, but I have one more question to ask about the farmer relationship. It's like with CBD, farmers up here anyway, were sort of left holding the bag. Farmers got the short end of the stick. And I think historically that happens sometimes. Farmers end up getting the short end of the stick. What are you doing to ensure that that doesn't happen? Because let's be honest, without farmers, there's no industry.
Yeah, well, the Pay to Grow program is a great example. We are de-risking that. We've done the R&D. We've found the genetics. We're bringing in the seed. We're providing them that, giving them guaranteed payments to mitigate or reduce their risk completely, but yet still incentivizing them on the back end to get these good yields and make extra money based off their, attention to the crop and their performance. So, we think we're very fair prices, and agriculture varies wildly depending on where you are in the country. All soil's not created equal, and whatever crops they're used to, it's not a fit for every farmer. But the farmers around here, it is a great fit, and it has some great economic benefits, as well as that very important benefit of improving the quality of their best asset, which is the ground that they own.
Yeah. All right. So you said you've been sort of in the space for 5 years or so. What's your personal journey been like? Like, how did you end up here in the hemp industry?
I've been with Panda for 5 years, but I've been in the cannabis space for close to 15 years. I'm based out of Denver, Colorado, was in there, and they had legalized medical marijuana. I saw some potential in there. I was involved in that market, and then went into the facility design and the equipment side of that industry. So quickly transitioned to that, and then primarily was in the equipment side of things, where I would help, supply equipment, set up facilities. But really, once this opened up, I saw the vast potential for industrial hemp. And, the margins may be smaller, but the volumes are exponentially larger. And I think there's a lot of good that this can do. So transition from the equipment and facility design side of things, and, started my journey of investigating the industrial hemp market went to every processor I could across the world, every equipment manufacturer I could across the world, had the assistance of some of Panda Energy's top engineers. So as we, really dial in our vendors, would bring the engineers out there, make sure that, these guys are top tier, and had the staff, had the knowledge, and had the equipment to make something that's really gonna be able to handle this, because hemp is the toughest fiber on earth, and it will, definitely wear on some equipment. So going with people that have done this and done this for decades and know we need certain high wear spare parts that are replaceable. We need a certain gauge steel. That's really what we focused on, and some of the work that Panda had done in the past in developing these massive power plants really kind of gave us an advantage there, because power plants, hemp, you don't think they're hand in hand, but raising capital, getting a team in place, and executing a large scale industrial project has a lot of similarities, whatever the industry is. And that's really been a blessing for Panda, and something that's differentiated us and set us up for success here.
Awesome. When you were traveling around the world, checking out hemp stuff, talk about a few of the ones that really just, captured your imagination.
Just really primarily in Europe, where they've been doing it for a while, and they're focusing more on technical fibers for non-wovens, car parts, things like that. But the textile demand was mainly being met by China, and there wasn't all those people knocking on their door yet. So I think Europe has pivoted and is catering more to that market now. But we're learning here in this country. We did it 100 years ago, or whatever, 90 years ago, and now we're revitalizing the industry. So I really leaned on some of the expertise that was going on in Europe and China, and just trying to get in there, pick people's brains, talk to farmers, talk to processors, and think, let's talk to the people that are actually doing it and see what we can learn from those guys.
Nice. All right, so the gin at Wichita Falls is almost commissioned, or where are we with that?
We are commissioning right now. It's what I call dry commissioning. So we've got over 3 miles of ductwork. Everything's pneumatic. So there's hundreds of motors, hundreds of fans, switches, and all that. So we are running through right now, testing all the motors, running the fans, balancing the airflow and all the duct work, and testing our bagging machine, our baling machine. And we plan to introduce fiber to the line here in late February. Okay. And right now we're doing the dry commissioning side of things.
Cool. All right. So we're getting close to the end here, but maybe give me like a short-term plan, a 5-year plan, and then like a long-term vision.
Yeah, short-term plan, get line 1 operational, get that dialed in, and at the same time, develop the agriculture more locally. And then as we move forward, we plan to bring on more capacity for the decortication side and see really where the markets are going. And, as we look to the future, we will bring some more vertical manufacturing in-house, and possibly, start creating some products of our own, depending on, the specifics of our fiber and where we see the most opportunity in the markets. And, Panda Energy built 22 power plants. We're not getting in this business just to build one processing center. So then as we get this one dialed in, we'll start looking for other strategic locations where we can expand the company based on offtake and agriculture.
Pennsylvania is a wonderful place. I'll just throw that out there.
Hey, you guys have some great agriculture out there. And like I said, we're laser focused on getting this one up and running, getting this one performing, but we are in this for the long game. We see a lot of potential. And, there could be multiple processors in every state, and I think we'd still have plenty of demand left over. So, once this thing is running like a sewing machine, we'll be looking to expand here and or somewhere else. We have 500,000 square feet. We're engineered for 2 lines. We've got the potential to bring on wet processing if we want to go down the degumming route for those other, fine count yarn customers. But we're really just focusing on getting line 1 up and running, delivering clean, consistent product. Then we'll take a step back, analyze the market, and see what the next step is.
Cool. Sounds like a super smart approach. If people are out there listening and they're farmers and they want to, look into growing for you, best place to reach out is your website?
Yeah, go to www.pandabiotech.com and click on the Grower Inquiries tab, and then they can put their information in there, and one of our ag team members will reach out to them immediately with more details on the program and the contract.
All right. Anything else you want to share with us about Panda Biotech?
Nope, that's it. I'm just very proud of the team we have here and what we've been doing over the past few years. It's a big endeavor that we've taken on, and we're about to start running product. I'm very proud of that, very proud of the team, and I appreciate the work you're doing and anybody else that's out there, in this industrial hemp market and striving to help develop this industry. We appreciate all the work that they're doing as well.
Yeah. Let's keep in touch, and I'd like to maybe check back in with you over the next few months, see how things are going.
Yeah, we'll stay in touch and love to have you out here to check the place out once we're running some product.
Cool. All right. Scott Evans from Panda Biotech, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure talking to you.
Appreciate it, Eric. You have a great day.
All right, there you go. Just like that, the show is over. It's almost as if no time has gone by because you were transported to this magical place where all you do is think about industrial hemp. Well, some time has gone by, and sad to say, it's time to pack up and go home. All right, my name is Eric Herlock. I am the digital editor at Lancaster Farming newspaper, the greatest agricultural newspaper in the world. Check us out online at lancasterfarming.com. Sign up for our newsletters. Get yourself a subscription to our print edition. It's really just a wonderful treat of a newspaper. It's like something... If you're from the old days like me, you'll remember what a newspaper like this is. If you're from the modern days, you'll love it. It's fantastic. And when we start printing on hemp paper someday in the future, you'll love it even more. Anyway, thanks for listening. Until next time, I will see you in the newspaper.
Industrial hemp.
Season 4, Episode 2 of the Lancaster Farming Industrial Hemp Podcast is copyright 2024 by Lancaster Farming Newspaper, part of the Steinman Communications family. Today's show is written and recorded, edited, and produced by Eric Herlock. And the music you hear throughout the show is courtesy of Tin Bird Shadow.